Yeah, I can't praise Joe Schoen enough for what a solid job he's done with the NFL draft. Now, make no mistake, I'm not going to say it was perfect. And the reason it hasn't really been perfect is because of reasons like you guys alluded to that have been out of his control. They've had injuries, but I think taking Kayvon Thibodeau, and I will continue to say this, at number 5 was one of the best things you could have done because as we mentioned, I think Evan Neal seemed like the consensus number 5 pick in the draft. But the thing about Kayvon Thibodeau, and I'm sure you guys pretty much know, I think Kayvon Thibodeau is actually going to have a monster second half after the bye week. Tom, you may have heard me say that numerous times. Taking a guy like him is huge because players of his talent on edge do not grow on trees. They really don't. And then being able to still get Evan Neal 2 picks afterwards, that's like the cherry on top right there. And I think definitely he did well in the tight end department because even though he's hurt, Daniel Bellinger is a sure-handed receiver and a very good blocker. So I think he's definitely a diamond in the rough. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is pretty much doing essentially what the previous regime thought that Kadarius Toney was going to do, but we all know how that turned out. So that's the speedy gadget wide receiver that actually worked out. Hopefully, let me just knock on wood. But yeah, I think he's definitely done a good job drafting. And you know what? I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I am going to say this too. I think Joe Schoen also did the right thing by choosing not to mortgage their future and go after a wide receiver. Essentially, he's looking at the big picture. And look, as much as a good wide receiver, like say a Jerry Jeudy, would have been a good improvement, that's not the way you build a Super Bowl team over a consistent basis. You do it by building through the draft year after year. And so far, year 1, that's pretty much worked out. Now, what happens going forward, time will tell. But I also love how in his press conference, he straight up admitted and told the truth. We're not trying to go after like a guy for a quick fix. How many GMs do you see actually speak out and say stuff like that? Not many.
No. And Steve asked this comment, Shane for GM of the year?
I think you could argue that. I think you
Potentially.
probably could. And the Giants are essentially on a similar path to where the Bills were 5 years ago in 2017. So I don't think that's really a coincidence.
Yeah. The only difference is we already have, this is my opinion. We already have the quarterback.
Right.
They didn't.
No, they had Tyrod Taylor and they had Nathan Peterman.
Right.
I still can't believe they made the playoffs by starting Nathan Peterman for a few games. Back at that year.
Yeah. Also, Dane Belton and Mike McFadden have been 2 impactful rookies. By the way, that third rookie on IR is DJ Davidson, the defensive tackle out of Arizona State. But I think they've been impactful. And Tomon Fox getting reps at that edge rusher position, replacing Azeez Ojulari, who hasn't played much at all this season. I think he's played, 1 or 2 games, if that.
Yeah.
That's been a headache. That's been very disappointing for me. I think that might be the most disappointing thing about this defense, to be quite honest with you, that he hasn't played. It really stinks. Really stinks. So, previewing the bye week now, some sad news before we get into the clean news. Beloved wife of former ex-Giants head coach Tom Coughlin has passed away at the age of 77 years old. There's a picture of Tom and Judy together. Judy passed away Wednesday morning after a battle with a rare brain disorder called supranuclear palsy. The Coughlins have 4 children and 11 grandchildren. Judy, outstanding support for Tom throughout his time as the head coach of the Giants from 2004 to 2015. And Tom Coughlin made this statement regarding his his widow. Um, my my cherished wife and our beloved mother and grandmother, Judy Whitaker Coughlin, passed away this morning, as in yesterday morning now, at the age of 77. Judy was a remarkable woman in every way. She lived a life filled with love and unselfishly gave her heart and soul to others. Judy made you feel like an old friend from the first hug to the last. She was a mother to all, on and off the field. For everyone who knew and loved Judy, the enormity of her absence cannot be put into words, but the immense kindness she showed to others will always endure. Our hearts are broken, but we know she is free from suffering and at peace with the Lord. Statement from Tom Coughlin and the Coughlin family. Um, Tough, it's just tough because she helped Tom, and a lot of people, if you're a younger Giants fan, like maybe a teenager, you might not know this, but the Jacksonville Jaguars were founded in 1995. That organization was jump started by Tom and Judy Coughlin. People forget Coughlin was the first head coach in franchise history for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Judy played an immense role in that. But Hank and Sam, I just want to get your thoughts on this here. Just terrible news
Yeah.
to start off the week.
Really sad, but it's good to remember people in a positive way, and it's good to remember someone for all the good they have done, um, for something like our football organization, which seems so minuscule after someone passes away. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really sad, but it seems like she lived a long life and she did a lot of great things during that life. And, we're happy to have some sort of affiliation with her being Giants fans and, being supporters of Tom Coughlin, which in proximity means supporting Judy Coughlin. So, really sorry for the Coughlin family's loss, but I hope that, she can be remembered in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm really sad to hear about this news. LPG posted some tributes to her on his social media page, and seems like she really went out of her way and went to a lot of New York Giants charitable events. And she seemed like a very special woman, very supportive of her husband, and very supportive of a lot of the charitable work that they have done over the years. And I don't know if there are any tributes that any of the players have posted on the social medias, but I'm sure many of the former Giants from over the years have some very fond memories of Judy Coughlin. And yeah, definitely a very sad day. And rest in peace to her. And my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the Coughlins. And by the way, I think Tom Coughlin actually has a book coming out about that Super Bowl season, if I'm not mistaken.
He does. I wrote it on my Christmas list, actually. It's called, hold on, I'll get it for you in a minute. I just wrote Tom Coughlin book. I'm sure that's not what it's called, but
It's definitely not what it's called.
yeah, but I'm definitely going to buy that book and check it out. But one last thing on the Judy Coughlin thing. They also, the two of them, jump started the Tom Coughlin J Fund, founded back in 1996. Their mission is to help families tackle childhood cancer by providing comprehensive financial, emotional, and practical support through those families. And they've donated a lot of money throughout the years. So great people, not just, Tom Coughlin was not just a great head coach for the Giants, but he was also a great person. I think people sometimes connect his coaching style to his personality, and that's not who he is off the field. He's an outstanding individual. Quick short story here. My girlfriend used to work at the Starbucks that Tom Coughlin went to in Park Ridge, New Jersey, and every month Tom Coughlin would, he would do something nice for them. So, always good to know that the Coughlins local people, and they really are great. But rest in peace to Judy Coughlin. But if there's any way to segue back into Giants talk here, it's been an interesting bye week. I feel like it's been very quiet. No, like not just with the trades, but just in general, the injuries. We haven't heard much. We know Ben Bredesen was placed on IR. I heard in Shane's press conference the other day that they're hopeful for Kenny Golladay in Week 10 against Houston, and they're also hopeful for Evan Neal potentially in Week 10 against Houston. And the plan for Daniel Bellinger is Week 11 right now against the Lions. So that's not so bad. I personally don't think you need Bellinger against the Texans. I mean, not to get too far ahead of ourselves. I mean, you need Bellinger every game, but let's be real. I think we can win without him that week, but I think it's a matter of time. This bye week happened at such a good time because the Giants, they're getting healthier. They have a lot of players hurt, key players. And these next two games just got a lot easier where Hawkinson got traded to the Vikings, so the Lions don't have him. The Giants could be 8-2 heading into Thanksgiving.
I love that. Let me ask you guys a quick question. Kenny Golladay comes back. Does he see the end zone for the first time in his Giants career? What do you think?
You want to say first? I don't know if I can answer the question yet.
I'm just curious where your guys' heads at in terms of Kenny.
I haven't even thought about Kenny Golladay.
Neither have I.
So that's why I'm having trouble answering your question.
I'll tell you what I think.
But
I think no. I think he doesn't see the end zone at all, and he's gone by the end of the season.
I don't really disagree. I just think
Steve agrees.
If he's going to complain about his playing time and then, you have all the burn a bridge with Brian Daboll, that doesn't sound like somebody who's going to contribute this year. I'm sorry to say. I can't remember what 80s group sang this, but essentially money for nothing, then no catches for free. Dire Straits vibe. Sorry.
Dire Straits, money for nothing and the chicks for free, something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny Golladay might be heating food out of microwave oven soon if he doesn't start getting his act together. But anyway, to answer your question, Sam, this is my answer. Yeah. There'll be no words. That's my answer.
I love that.
David Sills. That's my answer. I think he scores a touchdown before Kenny Golladay does. I mean, I'm sorry, but if Saquon and David Sills are taking pictures like this with Daniel Jones and Kenny's not there, I mean, it says something about Kenny.
Look at Daniel Jones. Look at him. He's so cute.
He's just living life.
I love them.
Oh, man. But for real, though, Karen Golladay couldn't find the end zone with a flashlight in the daytime. I do feel bad, though, because I really want to like this guy, too. Like, I really like this guy as a person. It's just, I can't.
I was excited when he popped over to the Giants. He'd done amazing things in Detroit. I was excited. God, Hank's losing it.
Are you good?
Yeah, Karen Golladay. I'm like,
that was not a typo, Steve. That was definitely not a typo.
That's why I'm dying.
Oh man, love it. Absolutely love it. But yeah, I think that picture of Jones, Barkley, and Sills kind of sums it up, right? Man, how do we
in the end zone with the flashlight?
How do we segue from that now? I think this is where we get into the discussion about not trading for a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty much how we're going to wrap up the show tonight, is to talk about this since we don't have a game to preview.
Can I start?
Go ahead, Sam. You could start. Yes.
I just want to say, so obviously, Kadarius Toney got traded last week. Was that last week? Oh my God.
Yes, last week.
Feels like it was like months ago.
A week ago from today.
Yeah,
by the way,
it happened
I never
before
got
the
an opinion
show.
on that, but great move. Great move by the Giants.
Great move. Yeah, Tom didn't get to talk about that. Me and Hank got to talk about Kadarius last week.
All the airtime.
with Kadarius gone, obviously, wide receiver spot opens up. People were expecting Jerry Jeudy to become a New York Giant. I personally was not really feeling Jerry Jeudy. I just was like, okay, like if we get him, it's, it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna be upset, but I was like, if Kadarius leaves and that's an empty wide receiver spot, but he wasn't playing to begin with, and we've obviously been winning without him and with the offense we have now. Joe Schoen making that decision that we don't need to fill that spot right away before the trade deadline is so flippin' smart. And so, like, why put something into the system that we don't know might be like a cog in the machine? Like, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But what the offense we have right now is working. We have injuries. We're working around them. We're still scoring points. We're still winning games for the most part, apart from last week. I think that was just such a brilliant move. Made a lot of sense to me, and I'm okay with working with the offseason, working with the draft to fill a wide receiver spot. So I think excellent job by Joe Schoen. I'm happy with what the team we have. I'm happy nobody else has gone, and happy nobody else came in. And I think that it was just A+, no trades all around.
Well, somebody did come in, just not via the trade. Joe Schoen stole one of Brandon Beane's own. In Isaiah Hodgins from the Buffalo Bills. The Giants claimed him off waivers Wednesday. A 2026 round pick by the Bills. 6'4", 210, played in 2 games with the Bills this season, had 4 catches for 41 yards. He played just in 1 game last year. So essentially that's who we replaced. Okay, no. That's not who we replaced Kadarius Toney with. Hell, I'll address the elephant in the room. We replaced Kadarius Toney with our 2nd-round draft pick this year. That's who we replaced Kadarius Toney with. Wan'Dale. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure he has a touchdown, right?
Yeah, looks great.
All you have to know. All we have to know. Wan'Dale.
More than Kadarius Toney did.
Kadarius.
Hey, you tried to vouch for him, Tom. You tried to make it work.
I did, and now I look like a moron.
No, you don't. You were trying to root for him in terms of someone who was on our team, and it just
I really liked him.
Fell apart.
Right? Because
Tom, I don't blame you. You drank the Garth Michael Patrick Kool-Aid because
that was the influence I had in the back of my head before that draft. Garth was telling me about Toney from the Florida Gators. Like, don't be surprised if he goes in the back end of that 1st round, because he was being talked about as potentially the 4th best receiver in this draft behind those big 3 and Waddle, Smith, and Chase. And right now he has not even been close, with his ability to make people miss in the open field. But I think the fact that you got 2 draft picks for him is outstanding. The right way is to build through the draft. And that's what Joe Schoen has been doing. You trade Toney now before, again, I'm not a big fan of what he said to Alex Wilson, and I'm definitely not a fan of what he said to the Entertainer. That was uncalled for. I mean, I'm sorry. This is not like soap opera here, and that's what he was making it. Like, if you can't handle a comment from one of the nicest content creators out there who gives a lot of players the benefit of the doubt, you can buy yourself a one-way ticket out of New York City. That's the way I look at it.
Or East Rutherford.
Exactly. Thank you, Sam. But this is my thing. Shane was taking calls, but from what I heard, the only way the Giants were going to get a receiver is if they traded back a really good player in return. And beat reporter from The Athletic, Dan Duggan, was trying to get to the bottom of it, and all Shane says was, it's a good player. It was a really good player. So that leads me to believe who's a really good player on the Giants right now that might have a slim portion of trade value. Saquon.
I didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
I was the first one.
It was a hard no for Joe Schoen.
Yeah, like not now. Not after everything we've been through with him.
No. I think Saquon's in for the long haul as long as he stays healthy. I think that's the bottom line, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go out and get a Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks was not making Giants Super Bowl contenders. Jerry Jeudy, absolutely not. Did not want him. The other guy they were talking about was Elijah Moore, but I didn't want him either, even though he plays for the Jets and knows the field. Again, you value draft picks, right? This is what Joe Schoen's going to do. Like, he's not forcing the Giants to go all in this year. If it happens, it happens, right? They're 6-2 with what they got. And realistically, we look at this team, right? Galladay, Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson are the top 3 receivers right now when healthy. I think Richie James potentially played himself out of a role after last week's performance. We didn't even talk about that. Potentially, I mean, people were saying he played himself off the team. I mean, I think that was a little absurd. The guy had 2 fumbles. He lost us the game. Remove him from the punt returner role. Don't remove him from the team. I still think he has some value there, you know? Like, that's how tough New York is. After one game, they're looking for your head on a silver platter, you know? It's a tough situation, but we made the right move at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Overall, I feel like injuries, when the players come back from their injuries, this team obviously is only going to get stronger. But I'm like feeling very good about the second half of this season.
Mm-hmm. I am too.
And
Also,
let me
Jihad.
just say this.
Go ahead, Hank.
The picks that we got in return for Kadarius Toney, how do you know
Yeah.
that they're going to be, that they might not lead to some gems in the near future?
Yes, I agree with you, Hank.
Steve brings up a comment. I don't think any of those guys they looked at would have made us a contender. Keep the picks and build through the draft and allocate the money towards the players on your roster that are playing well.
Sure.
Which leads us into our overtime segment of the evening. Should Big Blue extend Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley? Those discussions are being had this week.
Yes, and yes. Yes. Keep them. Why not? It's working. It's finally working. The coaching staff is making it work. Daniel Jones is good. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm not opposed to having him as my quarterback for the next 3 years. Saquon stays healthy. Absolute beast. Absolute beast. 2 of them together, running all over this field. Running all over this field. Next thing on the list, extend them and then pay for grass. There you go. Get rid of the turf. Extend grass.
I like that idea.
That's the order
Henry?
in which you guys should do things.
Yeah, I would say extend them. Now, obviously, you don't have to go crazy with those contracts, especially be careful when giving a Saquon Barkley contract, because you never know with these running backs. That's my one precautionary thing. However, with that being said, do you keep them? Yeah, why not? And then maybe if you want to keep fixing up that offensive line too, just so that you know that Saquon can have more good runs like he's having this year, I don't think that could really hurt either.
I'll tell you this.
Yes.
Saquon is a must extend. Jones is a probably extend for me, and here's why. You guys know I'm a huge Daniel Jones fan, but here's why I'm against extending him this week. They've only played 8 games. Can he stay healthy for the whole season? That's my biggest question right now. He has yet to play a full 16, now 17 game season. What happens if Jones goes down in week 12?
No, you're
week
right.
13, and has a severe injury? Now we got to pay this guy $15 million next year. Oh, wait on Jones. Barkley is a must-do. I think Julian Love might get done this week as well, because he's also on a contract here. When I look at players on a contract year, it's Jones, it's Saquon, because he's on the 5th year. It's Nick Gates and Julian Love. I think those are the 4 players you want to keep. Let O'Shane walk, let Slayton walk if he wants. Build through the draft. Like I said, players aren't cutting it out. Get rid, but you keep the core pieces that are leading, like Jones, like Saquon, like Julian Love. That's another player we haven't talked about much, and I think he does deserve some love.
No pun intended.
Absolutely a pun intended there. But it's interesting because there was this article that I was reading. It was from Heavy. I don't look at Heavy that much, but It says the Giants are predicted to extend 24-year-old breakout star. They'll have those meetings this week, 9 games left. So it's an ongoing evaluation for everybody on the roster, not just Jones and Daniel. So that tells me that Julian Love is also in that discussion because he's the next best player. I would extend Daniel Jones eventually, just don't do it yet, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I would do
I agree with
Saquon
you.
now before the value gets too high.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Steve says extend them both on team-friendly deals. I think Jones, again, like I was saying before, maybe a 3-year with a potential get out after 1 if they can somehow make that work. Joe Schoen's smart enough. Hell, Kevin Abrams is good at math. No, you still have him there. Brandon Brown, good recruiter. I like where the Giants are headed into 2023, and I like the outlook for the second half of the season. We look at the next couple of games, Houston and Detroit. We said for the Giants to be a playoff team, they definitely need to win 3 of these 4 games. Now I only think they have to win 2. I think 3 would be nice, but let's say they slip up against Detroit. It's not the end of the world. The schedule does get a little tougher, not too tough, but the Colts don't look scary now at all. Philadelphia, they're playing tonight against the Texans, but quite frankly, they're undefeated. But who have they played outside of Minnesota?
They have a very easy schedule.
That's another thing, too.
And we usually split with Philly anyway, so even if they do beat us, there's a very good chance that in the next matchup we beat them.
I think before last year we had a crazy
lately they've split against Philadelphia. I remember the post incident that we don't talk about at that New York City nightclub that the Eagles have mostly dominated. But lately the Giants have been splitting, at least since the Joe Judge era.
Yeah, such a clown show the Eagles are.
I hate that franchise.
Yeah, they're so annoying to me.
Them and that orange and black hockey team that plays across the street from them.
Yeah. So we all have come to an agreement that we'd extend all Barkley, Jones. And are we all in unison on Love? I don't know. Did we confirm that? Do you guys like Julian Love as much as I do?
Yes. I do. I just have to see the actual numbers of the contract to consider how I feel about it, but I wouldn't be upset about it, keeping him on the team.
Yeah. Because I will say this, before this year, it was kind of confusing. Like, what is his role, right? Like, what is his role? He was stuck behind Logan Ryan and Xavier McKinney. And I think part of the reason why they let Logan Ryan go in the offseason is because of the emergence of Julian Love, right? It doesn't look like the Giants have missed much of a beat there. Plus, he is the leading tackler. That definitely helps. But, Hank, Sam, any final thoughts here tonight before we sign off? I know doing a little bit shorter of a show this week because of the bye week. There's no game to preview. So it's kind of interesting to have these discussions on the team, evaluate some players, and try to find out what direction we're headed in the second half of the season.
Yeah, like I said earlier, really excited for the second half of the season. I think all around we have some really good momentum going, and hopefully the bye week doesn't mess with that momentum and just kind of helps as a break to regain it and keep on going forward. And I'm stoked. I'm real stoked.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how the rest of this season plays out. And Tom, let me piggyback on your comment about the wins. Like before I go, you said 2 or 3. My magic number, to borrow a baseball term that you may or may not have heard on a certain other show on Review and Preview called Hitting for the Cycle. I hear it's pretty good. But to borrow a term that I've often used there, I would say my magic number was 10 wins. That's looking more and more realistic by the day. And you look at who the Giants play, I think they probably will split against Philadelphia because quite frankly, the Eagles are bound to lose a game sooner or later. And yeah, you're right. I was looking at their schedule. The only really tough opponent they had was the Minnesota Vikings. And look, I'm not going to lie. The Eagles are a talented team. Like it's obvious that they're one of the more complete teams in the NFC. But then again, to be fair, the NFC really isn't that strong. I mean, because you look besides the Giants, the three of the best teams in the NFC are all in the same division. So looking
not Dallas.
record wise, I'm talking record wise.
Oh, well, Minnesota's 6-1.
No, I don't think Dallas is as good as 6-2. Minnesota's 6-1. The West and the South are both shitty divisions. So yeah, it really hasn't been that great of a schedule. But looking at it, I think the Giants I can see the Giants winning one or both games against Washington. The Giants have historically done well against Washington too. So heck, maybe they one up me with my whole 10-game magic number prediction.
Yeah, and there's still
After
five.
After like trying to give them the benefit of the doubt for so long and years they're bad, maybe it's nice to be wrong and like be happy for a change.
It is nice to be wrong, especially when your team is winning. But there is still 5 divisional games yet to be played: 2 against Washington, 2 against Philly, 1 against Dallas on Thanksgiving, folks. And next week, you're going to want to stay tuned for our preview of the Houston Texans. And Sam, you and I might be having a special segment possibly this weekend. We'll keep the folks tuned in for that. We'll have to get confirmation. It is somewhat of a high-profile guest, so we'll talk about that more, though, via our social media promotional posts. But Hank, Sam, I want to thank you both so much for joining me tonight. It's great to be back, by the way. I just posted a film review like minutes before the show went live, so make sure to go check that out as well on our YouTube channel. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue, folks. You can check us out scrolling across that ticker below. I think it's that time. Without further ado, let's go Big Blue.